Welcome everybody to the Rob and Ace Rob Show. I'm Ace, as with me as always is Rob. Always remember, before we get into anything, like, subscribe, hit those buttons, whatever you got to do, comment, all that good stuff. Today's topic is a hefty one. We're going to tackle the myth of toxic masculinity. And when I say the myth, I mean a myth, because that shit's just not real. Let's be honest. It's not a real thing. But before we get into it, Rob, why don't you detail what toxic masculinity actually is?
What they say the definition is?
What the definition is, because it's not we have a definition of the tooth fairy too. That doesn't make it real.
Right. Okay. Toxic masculinity is an innocuous and all-encompassing term invented by women that men do not want to sleep with, to describe the actions and activities of any man that they do want to sleep with.
See, I'm going to even take it further. I don't even think it has to do with sleeping with somebody. It's justifying. It's trying to one, feminize, two, justify something that's not justifiable.
Emasculate.
I'm not even going to say emasculate, because that's too soft. Feminize. They're trying to make men and women the same. So they're trying to raise up women, but bring down men. So instead of just raising up women to our level, they're trying to bring us down to theirs.
Right.
Which is not how, like, I'm fine with you raising up to my level. I want you to be at my level.
Oh, here's the thing about that. I'm glad you said that. That's not possible.
No, that's what I'm getting to. If it was,
there is no level that we can reach that you will be able to reach. And at the same time, there are things that women can do that I will never be able to do. And that's just how it is. And we should stop trying to live in a fantasy world. I was listening to the Flagrant 2 podcast, and they were talking about Caitlyn Jenner, because she's in the news about talking about trans athletes, even though she's trans and used to be an athlete. And they hit on a few points. They're like, one, she wasn't even an athlete when she was trans. That happened later. Like, she may have felt that way, but she didn't do any surgery. She didn't take any hormones. She was a full man when she was competing in the Olympics. Yep.
Two, let's stop acting like we're the same. We're not the same people. Like, men have physical advantages over women when it comes to lifting things, doing physical tasks. Women have advantages over men in other categories. That's okay.
Even physically, they have advantages that we don't, and it's different. It's just a different world. Do you remember
a different type of physicality?
Do you remember the Ninja Warrior show?
Yeah. It was horrible. It's still on, I think.
Yeah, but do you remember the original Japanese version?
All my Japanese show knowledge has to do with a lot of yelling and massive amounts of injuries, and then for some reason, Jello.
Well,
their TV shows are weird, man.
Ninja Warrior was Japanese first, and the thing about them was they had two different versions of it, and the male one was the one that they made the American Ninja Warrior version of, which they also allow women to compete in, and the female one like had similarities, but they were different. They were all about balance, like landing on a small object and not falling off over and over again, stuff like that. Like it was just a different type of physicality, and both of them, it was just like I couldn't do any of that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Different.
But that's the thing. Like I've always praised women's strength when it comes to things that women are strong. Like, pregnancy is a powerful thing. If you've ever seen a pregnancy or a childbirth up close, and I'm not saying just the childbirth, I'm talking about the pregnancy, like from the day one to the baby's coming out, that whole process men can't do that. I don't give a fuck.
Right.
Like, if it was up to us and, the human race is on the line, there's going to be about half the people left in the world. Because I'm not signing up to have a watermelon come out of some of my holes.
That's
whichever
not
hormone
even
they
that's
decide.
not even the only thing they deal with.
And then my hip bone separating and the bloating and the constant hormones and generating milk out of you. It's just look, again, the point is
It
that's
strips enamel. The baby strips enamel from their teeth.
yeah, that's strength. That is a valid point of strength. And they started talking about, like they said, like when male and female athletes are paid differently, is because the sports that we prioritize are physical in nature. Baseball, football, basketball. Men can jump higher, are stronger naturally. Are there outliers? Yes, that's just life. But naturally, if you take a random man and a random woman at the same age, that man will generally be stronger than that woman 99 times out of 100. That's just facts. It's just science. There's really nowhere to debate that.
Correct.
If the sports that we watched or prioritize had to do with things that women are strong at, like childbirth, we would lose every time. It wouldn't be a contest. But we wouldn't complain that, oh, they're getting paid all this money for doing stuff that we can't do. No, just we can't do it. Just like you can't physically jump as high as me.
Moreover, I'll say there is one sport in particular where where women are paid more. And it's tennis.
I was going to say ultimate frisbee. I don't know where you're going with this.
It's tennis. And the reason for that is women's tennis is more popular than men's tennis.
It's more exciting, and I'm not even going to say better to watch because all tennis is boring to me, but they market it better.
Yeah.
It's all
100%.
marketing. Like if you take the most well-known popular tennis player male right now and put him in a room full of people, nobody would know who he is.
With his, I'm sure his unpronounceable name.
Yes, and no one would know who he is. He would walk amongst us and we would have no idea that this is a multimillionaire. If you put the most popular female tennis player in the world right now, we would all know who Serena Williams is. We know what she looks like. She's been marketed perfectly. We would know who the number 2 is, Naomi Osaka. We would know what she looks like. They market better. It's just a fact.
The other thing about her being marketable is the fact that she also has been dominant for 20-something years. You know?
Also, you bring up a perfect point. Even with her being the most dominant female athlete of all time, arguably, the most well-known women's tennis player, arguably, not even arguably, just period. She said on multiple occasions she can't beat a guy in tennis. She can't beat a male pro in tennis. It's just not possible. She could wax every female on the planet, but she can't beat a guy. She said if she played Andy Roddick, he'd probably win every set.
She did play a male tennis player.
And did she get waxed? Because that's what happened.
She got washed.
Yeah, and it's not that she's bad at tennis. He has an unfair advantage.
But also the rules for men's tennis is different. Men play more. I don't know the logistics, but it's almost
they played
like there's more rounds.
Times less. His muscles are bigger. His muscle fibers are bigger. That's just a fact.
His muscles process endurance differently.
He has more testosterone than she ever will.
Testosterone is the athlete hormone.
Yeah, it's naturally he's going to be better. That's just what it is. It's not a knock on her because she could wash 90% of men, but she can't wash professional tennis players. But that goes back to
I have such a joke I want to throw out there.
Don't do it. We got the algorithm.
You want to be professional.
Yeah, don't do it. Maybe at the end. Maybe like
at the end. I'll save it.
Yeah, write it down. So we're talking about men and women being different. And the point I made is I would love for women, instead of it being that society pushes men down so women have a fighting chance, you should be elevating women to compete on our level. But again, that's not possible because there's only one chief. You can't want a leader and also want to lead yourself. There can only be one leader. There's only one president. There's only one emperor. There's only one dictator. Yes, they got people they bounce ideas off, but who has the final say? It has to be one person. And generally in most households, it's the man. When the dichotomy is flipped, it doesn't really work. And bringing this back to toxic masculinity, that's what I think the situation is. They're trying to, any type of manness And that's a Patrice O'Neill term. Any type of just innate madness. And madness is shit that you know deep down in your core. Every man feels certain things deep down in their core. Any type of madness, they quote unquote deem toxic. Like if a man is aggressive, oh, he's being toxic. Or if he's outspoken, or if he shares ideas that aren't the societal norm, he's toxic. It's not like there are things that are toxic masculinity. We've all met dudes who are just like, there's no way you're like that. There's no one that masculine in the world. The Rock isn't that masculine. There's dudes that overcompensate and are toxic, and they generally end up being abusers, mental or physical.
Yeah.
But that term is thrown around to every guy. Like you get called for toxic masculinity if you point out the fact that men are stronger than women. Like I watched a video today where a comedian was doing a live YouTube show. He was walking around asking women different things. And he asked a woman a simple question. He wasn't rude. He wasn't yelling, screaming. He wasn't being aggressive. He just said, what are some of the things that women are good at? She labeled a bunch of emotional stuff, went right to it. And he said, okay, so what are some of the things men are good at? She couldn't really think of anything. And he's like, don't you think that's strange that you gave me like 5 or 6 different things for women and none for men? Like, you don't think we're good at anything? And then she eventually said, some non sequitur stuff that really didn't mean anything. And he said, well, what about, physical strength? Like, we're physically stronger than you guys, right? She's like, yeah, I don't know. I don't really like the term stronger. Like it's not a word.
I tell you, man, I give up sometimes, man. Like,
but that's my point. And the reason I bring up that video, towards the end of the video, 2 guys run up on him like, hey, why are you making this girl cry? He's like, she's not crying. We ended the interview. She went over about her business. What do you mean she's crying? He's like, he went over. I went over to talk to her. She's like, she's upset. I was like, I don't know why she would be upset. All I did was ask her some questions. Like, well, why are you being so aggressive? He said, I'm not. I can ask you the same thing I asked her. I'm just doing interviews. But this is what society pushes on us. If you see a man and a woman having a conversation and the woman walks away seemingly defeated because she said some stuff that sounds stupid, and he's a comedian and he points out the stupidness in the sarcastic way, now he's toxic. Now he's being disrespectful. When all he did was just ask a question. It's like any opportunity to bring us down to an equal plane they're going to take. And that's not healthy for society.
I want to go one deeper on that.
Go ahead.
We are living in a society where it is almost like the women folk are not like, it's almost like we don't want them to ever have to deal with any bad feelings.
No accountability. And it's our fault. Because anytime a woman grows up without accountability, which happens a lot, because especially if you're pretty, it's just the second you see them have to be accountable for something, they crumble. And they go into defensive mode and they go into, well, he's just being a dick or he's being mean. Like if you ever seen,
toxic.
Yeah. Like if you've ever seen, I've seen so many times and especially with guys my age where looks don't really, that you're not getting it anymore just off your looks. Like I'm 41. Looks will get you close, but that's not going to get you, like, you're not going to be able to just say whatever the fuck you want to say just because you look good.
Right.
When you're younger and you don't know any better, you'll let stuff slide that you won't when you get older. Guys, it's just going to happen. Don't try to fight it. It is what it is. But I've seen dudes that's like, nah, get the fuck out of here. I'm not doing that. And the woman goes off and like, how dare you talk to me? And like, no, he's just treating you like he would anybody else. If you say something crazy, disrespectful, or you demand something that you don't have a right to demand, and I say, no, get the F out of here, and I treat you like a dude, I'm not being toxic. I'm treating you like an equal. That's what you should want. You shouldn't want fair treatment just because you got a vagina. You should want fair treatment because you earned it. Like it was that, and this show, it's a guilty pleasure. It's okay sometimes, but they take it to the extreme, and they're doing it for, the YouTube clicks and the Patreon hits, and I get it. The Fresh and Fit podcast.
Yeah.
Like they'll kick a girl out. Or
I do like when they do that.
Sometimes he gets overboard sometimes. But there was one particular one. It was recent. It was this girl and this two girls. One had a lime green dress on, and another one had like a darker green dress on. It was a black and white chick.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and the lime green dress just go. She's like, "Well, I don't have to be here if you don't want." He's like, "Fine, get the fuck out. You don't have to be here. I'm not forcing you to be here. There's no. You give me attitude, being disrespectful. You can leave. Like we don't need you here." So she gets up and leaves, and the black friend's trying to like negotiate. She's like, "No, I didn't do anything. I'm with her. I didn't." And she's like, "No." He's like, "No, you guys are being disrespectful. You have to go. That's it." And she's trying to bargain, and she's trying to call him rude and disrespectful. And she's trying to be, he's like, "No, I'm not being mean. I'm not raising my voice. You guys are being disrespectful. You cut me off constantly. This is our show. You belittled me. You talked about his mother. You got to go. Get out, or I'm calling the cops." And all you saw was a 30-minute crumbling of this woman. Like I felt bad for her, not because of how she was acting, but because she didn't even know how she was acting. She literally, I guarantee she never had a guy talk to her like that before.
Yeah, like it's not like you feel bad for her. It's like you feel bad for her upbringing.
I feel bad because she's never been challenged. She's never had somebody say to her, no. Because she's pretty. Let's be honest. Like you could pull up the video, you could look at her. She's a gorgeous woman, and she's young, she's hot, she's in shape. Good for her. All power to you. But when you meet a guy who doesn't prize those things, that's when you're on level playing field. And again, it's not toxic masculinity, because I've always said it best. If masculinity is toxic, when burglars break into the house, you go do it. You go deal with that.
I took care of the last one. You take care of it.
Even if I didn't take care of the last one, we equal, right? You take this one, I'll take the next one, boss. You got it. The baseball bat's under the bed, the gun's in the safe. Password is go kill yourself. Go to it. That'll never happen.
And today, the thing is, in today's world, you're going to run into a lot of women, depending on where you live, who are going to say, well, I have a gun and I know how to use a gun. Stop. I want women listening to stop.
I'm not going to say women. I'm going to say human beings who say that. Women specifically, but human beings who say that. Like, yeah. I have a gun and I know how to use it. No, you don't.
Yeah.
You haven't been in combat situations. You've been in a gun range.
You can, yeah, you can go to a gun range 100 times. And for those listening, that's actually a hobby of mine I do from time to time, and I enjoy it. And you know what I don't do? I don't shoot people. I don't know how. It's not that I don't know how to.
But anyone can the difference. It's the dumbest example of how I learned the difference of, oh, you're not going to live through a war, like that Rambo moment where you think you're the lone soldier who's going to survive. It was playing paintball for the first time. Because I've gone to a gun range. I've shot guns. I've done all that stuff. I'm a pretty decent marksman. Not great, but I can shoot a target. I can hit where I need to hit. Center mass is not a small target. And that's what you're aiming for. You're not aiming for the head, you're aiming for center mass, the biggest area. So I can hit that. No problem doing it. I go playing paintball, and within 3 seconds, it's just whap, 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 whap. Oh, this is real. They're shooting back. I'm not as good as I thought I was.
Oh, you have to strategize?
Yeah, it's like boxing. You can shadow box and you can spar all you want, but when it's real, it's not going to be fun for you. Ask Nate Robinson. Ask. I'm not even saying Ben Askren because I still believe that was a fix. But ask any of these celebrity boxers back in the day. Who was it? Fred Joe Star, Sticky Fingers, one of those two.
Yeah,
that got knocked out.
Like Kid Rock.
Yeah, you can think like, and again, we're not talking about street fighting. They were boxing. That's a different animal. A street fight is one thing. I'll take a hood dude in a street fight over a hillbilly any day. But boxing, where there's actual rules and you have to have a certain set of skills and you have to have a certain reaction time and head movement and you have to have muscle memory and you have to have been able to take a punch, not just give one.
Right.
It's real. It's the Mr. Miyagi. Board, no hit back.
Yeah.
When you get into the real shit, like you can say, oh, I got my gun in my purse. Okay. When you shoot that gun without headgear for the first time and your eardrums blow out and you can't hear anything except for a ringing noise, and the flash is so violently blinding that you're a little bit blind for like 2 seconds and you miss.
That's not even it to me.
What happens?
That's not even it to me. To me, it's go ahead, pull your gun out. Let's see if your hand is shaking or not. when you hear a rustling at the door that you've
That's what
never
I'm saying.
heard before, because
I'm not even going to the
at 2 in the
adrenaline
morning,
part
you're
of
used
it.
to hearing silence and being asleep.
I'm not even going to the adrenaline part of it, because it's like being in an actual fight, being in a contest, being in like a slap box, and being in an actual fight is different. The adrenaline is going to be rushing. Your hands are going to shake. You don't. It's not a controlled environment where you're at a gun range and there's an instructor behind you and there's just a piece of paper in front of you, and you have ear blockers on to block the loud noises, and it's in an area where the flash won't blind you for a few seconds.
What episode is it that we did? We did an episode a couple of weeks back where, or maybe last week, where I recommended that the next step in fitness is to sign up for something.
Yeah, sign up for a physical activity. Yeah,
and
that was one of our leveling up podcasts.
Right, whether it be a race or whether it be combat sports. For me, I recommend combat sports.
We both said the same thing. I recommend getting your ass beat. I'm never going to say combat sports. I recommend getting into a fight, not in the street, not with some rando. I recommend signing up for a boxing gym or a jiu-jitsu gym or kickboxing, whatever, and getting into a fight there.
Yeah,
and realizing that, oh, I'm not as tough as I think I am.
But not only that, like after a while of doing it, I started competing. And in my first competition, the referee says, go. And, you know, we slap and bump. That's the typical, like, you and your opponent greeting. It's slap hands, bump fists, and then start the match. And the guy grabs my gi, the uniform, and that's when it hit me. It didn't hit me when I signed up. It didn't hit me at all in the training, the months of training leading up to it. None of that. It hit me the moment he grabbed my thing, and I was like, oh my God, he's not a training partner.
This is real.
He doesn't care about my well-being. He wants to win. And it was like this unforgettable fear of God type of moment. And it's fight or flight. And he was up on points, and he was doing good. And then, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 minutes in, I got on top of him, and I found this choke and won. And that's when I started. I was just like, well, I got to do this all the time, because then that was like my adrenaline junkie moment. But that's what will make you realize that going to a gun range and actually having to use a gun to defend your life is 100% completely a different story.
And that goes back to the situation.
It made me respect police and soldiers and firemen. It made me respect first responders.
Let's lower the stakes. Let's make it easier, because let's not even talk about a home intruder pops in. You are out with your man. You're going out to the movies. You sit down. A dude next to him spills a drink on you. You are going to look at him and be like, you better defend me. You better defend my honor. You better say something. Let's be honest. If you lie, if you say you're not going to do that, stop lying. It's going to happen. If that man doesn't do that, he's considered a pussy. You're probably going to leave him. There's going to be an argument. It's going to end soon. That it's not a situation where if that man spills a drink on you, you're going to be like, oh, well, let me get to fight with this big man. I'm going to beat the hell out of him. No, you're going to look towards him. So that's the problem with toxic masculinity. It's only toxic when it doesn't benefit you. You only don't want me to be the strong, physical man that I am when it doesn't benefit you. When it benefits you, you're fine with it. Like if you always hear that thing, like, I want my man to pick me up and throw me on the bed and manhandle me. Yeah, that's what we're supposed to do. But that's what makes us men. You don't want me doing that to every single woman in the world. You want me to do that to you because that's what turns you on innately. But then you want that same energy direct to not happen anywhere else. It's like, I'm not even gonna say against the whole Me Too movement, because a lot of it did need to happen. A lot of shit was fucked up.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff was overblown, but a lot of it was fucked up. Like the Harvey Weinstein situation. Yes, definitely. Anytime Brad Pitt's going to threaten to kill you, you probably did something wrong. But a lot of stuff, they were going after guys just because they were like the Aziz Ansari situation. He was called toxic. He was called almost a rapist. He was called a misogynist.
Creep.
They called him a creep, a pervert. He went out with a girl and had a bad date. Literally, that's all it was. It was a bad date. If you don't know the story, look it up. They went on a date, a consensual date. This is a movie star at the time. Remember, he's a movie star, TV star, one of the most famous comedians on the planet at the time. They go out on a consensual date. They go back to his place. They're making out. He asks for head. She doesn't want to do it. He does what any guy does again, ask more. And she eventually gives in because she felt like she had to.
Also, he went down on her, by the way.
I'm playing devil's advocate. I'm not even giving the parts where it makes it look better.
No, F that. No.
Yeah, just a regular situation. All he did was say, "Yo, could you blow me?" She's no. Yo, come on, blow me. Okay. He didn't hold her head down. He didn't put her in a headlock. He didn't tie her down and then shove it in. He literally asked. She herself said there was nothing physical he did to make me do this. I just felt like I should. Well, that's your fault. That doesn't make him
like
toxic.
basically he got flamed for saying please.
That doesn't make him toxic. He shouldn't have begged for it. That's the first thing. But that doesn't make him toxic. That makes you toxic. You're blowing a situation out of the woodwork that doesn't need to be blown out of the woodwork. It's the same thing with, and I come from corporate America. I come from management in corporate environments. There were so many cases of sexual harassment that were not harassment at all that I had to deal with as a manager. There was a specific female that literally is sitting next to a guy. They're having a good conversation. I'm watching it happen. I see them. They're having a conversation. Apparently, he asked for her number. She gave it to him. They talk for a little bit. She loses interest. He still tries to pursue. She calls it harassment. He said some nasty things to me. I don't want to talk to him anymore. Okay, well, did you tell him that? No, I didn't. I just blocked him. Well, then that's your fault. You're an adult. He's not harassing you. You gave him the information. He has the right to ask you out on a date, and you have the right to say no. But if you're not even going to do your part and say no, then how is that harassment? And there were so many cases like that I had to deal with at this job because that's what America has come to, especially corporate. It's a quote unquote super politically correct, or you're the devil. And if there's a woman involved against a man, it's going to be the woman's word 9 times out of 10. My nephew was fired for this. I'll tell you a quick story. My nephew, young kid, 20 years old, working at a boutique selling cannabis products. It's legal in our state. Don't call the cops.
Nice.
Yes. So he's at a booth in the mall selling like cannabis lotion and creams and all this other stuff. And he's working with a woman. Again, I'm Black, so my nephew obviously is Black. My nephew was talking to a woman who was white. If you live in America, you already have your bells are already ringing, like that simple statement right there.
So at what point was he immediately arrested?
This is literally where it's going to. It almost got to that point. They get to talking. He asks for her number. They talk back and forth. He loses interest, and he actually sends her a text like, "Yo, this is getting kind of too weird for me. I'm not really into this. I'd appreciate it if we just stay friends and just not talk like that anymore." She texts him a few more times after that, goes to HR, says he harassed her sexually. They fire him. Now, I know what you're thinking, like, well, he's probably not telling you the whole story, except I saw the text messages. I saw the actual evidence. He literally did exactly what I just said. He physically she gave her the number willingly. She was talking reckless to him willingly. It only became harassment when he said, "Nah, I'm good. I really don't do this." And the company still sided with her. He got fired. She still worked there.
Yeah, guys, don't mess with your coworkers. It's never worth it.
Oh, I've said that. That was the first conversation I had with him as he talked to me about it.
Like Jim and Sam are fictional. Stop it. Like The Office.
I'm not even going to say that, but you got to vet your prospects. You can't do that with everybody. You have to know this person well. You have to know that they're not the type of person to run and tell teacher the second things go bad. And you have to have a situation where if things go bad, you can both be adults about it, which isn't going to happen a lot of times. That's a 1 out of 10 probability. So it can happen. I'm a hopeless romantic. Rob isn't, I am. I still believe in the whole fairy tale nonsense, even though I'm divorced.
Well, the thing is, I just live by the exception is not the rule.
No, and I get that. That's what I'm saying. You like I've always said, you hope for the best, plan for the worst.
Right. Like in the game of if you're playing the odds, it's like
it's 1 out of 10. I'm not even gonna say it's not even a close prospect. It's worse than Vegas odds. But you hope if something, if that spark is there and you've done your due diligence, shoot your shot. Just don't put all your baskets in that shot and CYAWP, cover your ass with paperwork.
Facts.
And even then, like my nephew, it still might not save you. Even if you got the paperwork, right, you still might get fired. Just be ready to lose the job. That's all I'm saying.
So, and then that begs the question, like, was he being toxic?
That's what I'm saying. Apparently, him even asking her out was toxic. Henry Cavill had an issue with that. When the whole Me Too thing came out, he didn't say anything crazy. He said, well, with this whole environment and how, every type of interaction is being scrutinized, it kind of makes it more difficult to just get out there and date. He said a normal human statement, and he was like, oh my God, you're sexist and you're misogynist. That's the most toxic thing you can say. How dare this isn't the 50s. All he did was he said it's more difficult now because you have to scrutinize everything you say, which is what you're supposed to do. It's like the guy who said men are stronger. He said a normal thing, and now he's the devil. And that's with this whole toxic nonsense. Like I want to say there's a way around it or there's a way about it. But what do you think? Like how do we navigate this toxic masculinity era?
In what terms? Like, are you talking about protecting yourself?
As a man who's young, who doesn't know shit, because let's be honest, when you're young, you don't know nothing. How do you navigate, being a man in today's society?
There's going to be different facets to this, So there's navigating your masculinity in the workplace, which my advice would be don't do it. Just be quiet and do your job at the workplace. You know what I mean? Then there's, you want to date, you want to meet women, and you want to have that sort of the occasional romantic interaction, whether you want to be casual, whether you want to be serious, you still have to talk to women, and you have to find a way to do that in a way that they're not going to see as toxic. And then there's also just being out and about in the street. The best example to me was the Gillette commercial where they were trying to stop where the guy's just
the commercial about a men's product telling men to not be men.
Yeah, that was my favorite. But the one that they showed, like the guy walks out of the store, he's outside for 2 seconds, looks at a girl and goes, "Oh," and the one guy's like, "Stop." I'm like, damn, a guy can't look and admire unless he's Jason Momoa. It's not because that's what it is. That's the bullshit. That's the problem I have. Nobody's calling Jason Momoa toxic because he likes to throw axes in the woods and have a huge beard, because he's 6'6" and he's Aquaman.
That's the dichotomy. Captain America
Jason Momoa and
toxic.
Danny DeVito say the same exact line. Danny DeVito's a creep. Jason Momoa is handsome God. That's why Aziz Ansari got in trouble, because he wasn't big, tall, and handsome. There is no other reason, and anyone who says otherwise is lying. I will say that to their face.
When I asked you that question, that was where I was going.
Were you setting me up for a giant rant?
Yes. That's where I was going.
I fell for it.
And I'm gonna not even disagree. I'm gonna give an alternative. How do you navigate being a man now? Just be a fucking man.
Do it anyway.
You can't win either way. The only way to win is not to play the game. War games. It's a very simple thing. Women want manly men. When you're growing up, you don't see younger girls, rushing for the nerds or rushing for the guys who are betas, or rushing for the simps. They go for the jocks. They go for the territorial guys. They go for the dudes with the big muscles, the nice cars, the big attitudes, the loud mouth. Those are the guys that get women. Now, when they're younger, they do that because it's instinctual. When they get older, they get, they go to college, they get all this other nonsense put in their head, and then they start to change. Oh, I don't want that. But that doesn't change till later. When they're in their natural element, they do want that. So don't be something you're not. Don't try to cater to society. Be who you are. Don't be a dick. Don't be an asshole. But be who you are. If you're like you were mentioning, I was going to mention two people, Jason Momoa and The Rock. Jason Momoa, like you said, he builds his own axes. He lives in the forest in Hawaii. He's almost a caveman. He doesn't change who he is because he doesn't have to, because he looks the way he does. The Rock, same thing. Works out 16 hours in a 24-hour day. Runs 500 businesses. Super muscular dude, 6'3". Ripped the gate off his wall just because he needed to get out. Just a man.
He doubled down on that man thing too. He ripped the gate out, and then he used that as an opportunity to promote a business that fixed the gate.
He did a nice thing.
He did that in an act of altruism afterwards. Like he just honorably found a way to make another business money for no reason.
Those are two manly men who aren't dicks. You don't have to be a dick to be a man. You don't have to be an asshole. Nobody's going to call them toxic, even though they're doing all these toxic behaviors, quote unquote toxic behaviors. They're just being manly men. On Parks and Recreation, everybody loves Ron Swanson.
That's what it is.
He's the man. He's a gag. He's a joke of the manly man. He's the exaggerated version, but he's almost if you've watched Parks and Rec, I guarantee he's one of your top 3 favorite characters. So no matter what society tells you, that was the reason I asked that question. They do want you to be that. You're going to get demonized no matter what you do. So don't sacrifice your principles just because, don't be Disney. Don't be NBC. Don't be the guy who kowtows because society tells you have to. Be who you are. Don't be a dick about it. Don't be an asshole. Don't mistreat people. But if you're a manly man, be a manly man.
Yeah. I want to also get into something a little bit specific on this, because we're by no means telling you to do something stupid. And being that what you were talking about, the overboard, like the guy who, like, nobody's that masculine.
Yeah.
Like a lot of men don't know this. They really don't. And we're not here to pick on women, and we're not here to only prop up men. We're here to lay out real facts. And a lot of men don't know this. And it is actually better than that we're here to actually say this to men out there, so that they're not totally lost, so that they can at least understand why it is that society has, one of the reasons that society has come to this. A lot of men don't realize just how young females are when they see their first dick. And I don't mean hooking up with a guy. I mean randomly being harassed by a psycho perv. You know what I mean? Like, that is the toxic stuff. Now, I would say something like maybe like the construction site, which I've never seen, but I've never been an attractive female walking past a construction site.
Do you have the same brain? Why do you beat me to the topics as soon as I'm about to bring them up?
You know what I mean? Like that's always been looked at as something like toxic, like the construction workers you walk past a construction site and you get catcalled. Yeah, you don't have to do that. That is a bit extra. Whistling past a girl or saying something about her ass or titties when you drive by or something like that. Like you don't have to be an animal. So a lot of men maybe are confused and don't realize that is something that women do go through. And when I say women, I mean like most of them. I'm talking about if you are a 4 or higher, you've been through that. Probably as young as like 11, 12 years old.
I'm gonna be the bad cop, but keep going.
No, that was going to be the last point.
I was gonna bring up those catcalling videos that women put out. Like you've had to have seen it. If you go like on the news or YouTube, it'll be a woman walking, and then it'll be a super cut. She'll be walking. Usually, it's in New York or a crowded city,
Yeah.
And she'll be walking, and she'll videotape for hours on hours as she's walking. All the dudes catcalling and harassing her. And when you actually listen to it, they're not saying vile shit. They're not saying, "Yo, baby, pull your titty out. Hey, let me suck your ass." They're not saying nothing crazy. They're literally hitting on her. they're literally shooting their shot. She can say no.
Yeah,
like that's the lack of accountability that I can't stand. Like, are they aggressive? Maybe. But how else are they gonna? This is a random woman walking through their day. Could they have handled it better? Probably. But you know why they didn't? Because that's gotten them laid at some point.
Right.
Like, men only do things at work. We don't, most men, I'm not talking about the dickholes at the construction site who are just yelling out nonsense. Most men do the methods that work for them.
Right. And it's key that you said most men, because when we're talking about this topic, this toxic masculinity, like, we are talking about most men, and most men are not this. And what I think a lot of the feminism or the feminist agenda or society is talking about tries to paint the picture that most men, otherwise there wouldn't be that stupid Gillette commercial. You know what I mean? Like, every man grows facial hair for the most part. You know what I mean?
You know what's sad? That commercial, I guarantee, was greenlit by a dude. There was a guy who did that, who said, "This is going to get a lot of people on our side. This is going to get us good PR." And he didn't realize how dumb it was.
Retarded. I shouldn't have said that. R word.
It's okay. The R worded. But even with that, like, even with the no accountability, this is one of the final things I'll say about why toxic masculinity isn't a thing. Have you ever heard anybody talk about toxic femininity?
No.
Why is that not a thing? Because if one is true, the other has to be true.
Right.
That's just science. If there's always an equal and opposite reaction. So if there's toxic masculinity, there has to be toxic femininity. But I've never heard anybody talk about toxic femininity. You want to know why? Because we don't complain about nonsense like that. We just call it femininity. There's a lot of women who will yell and argue with men or women and scream, and they're loud, and they're this, that, and the third, and they got those super big person, "You can't tell me what to do, and I'm gonna do what I want to do," and this, that, and the third, and they put the finger in your face, and they want to fight. There's TV shows based around these women. Cardi B made a living off of pretending to be that person. Yet nobody calls her as a toxic female. When you watch,
she says in her most recent song, "Gotta argue with him because you know he loves a toxic chick."
Yeah. There's that show that used to be on Bad Girls Club. They would literally get a house full of women who probably played it up. Let's be honest. They probably played it up more than they actually were. But some of them were being real. And they would argue and fight and get drunk and fuck. That's it. Those were the 4 things they did all day, every day. And it was being filmed and put out to the public. And it was like one of the most popular shows on TV at a point. Nobody called them toxic. They just called them, "Oh, these girls is crazy. Oh, that's my girl, Sugarfoot. She's crazy.
Sugarfoot.
That's my girl, Big Dee. She crazy." Nobody goes anything. And on the flip side, you'll have a show like Jersey Shore where you'll see some of those guys and every man clown them. We didn't respect them. No. Nobody looked at the situation and was like, "I want to be like that. That's my boy." We laughed at him because he sounded like a fucking moron.
Yeah.
Or Ronnie 100%. With his steroid muscles. Like, nobody wanted to be him. We didn't idolize that. That guy didn't get a rap career where he's the most famous rap artist in the world. But Cardi B did. So again, you're okay with it when it benefits you. It's a lack of accountability. That's why it's a myth. Because again, I've seen women act a goddamn fool until violence is about to happen. And then once violence happens, the femininity comes out. Oh my God, why are you acting like that? Oh my God, he hit her. My grandmother's old school. For those who don't know, my grandmother was born in the 20s, probably before, I think the 10s or 20s. Ran numbers for Bumpy Johnson, gangster from Harlem. Old number runner, couldn't read or write, just a thug, criminal. And she told me when I was young, if a woman is man enough to put her hands on you, she's man enough to get her hands put on her. I've never done that. I'm strong enough and I know how to defend myself well enough that I don't have to put my hands on a woman. But what I'll see saying that is a lot of women will buck up on a man, they'll put their fingers in the face, they'll hit a man, but as soon as that man reacts physically, he's the bad guy. No, he's the toxic one. He's the abusive one. When you don't talk about what led up to it. It's the Bill Burr joke. It's the Chris Brown Rihanna joke. There's so many examples of it in society. And I'm not saying you should ever put your hands on a woman, because you should do what Ray said. You should get physically fit and know enough self-defense that you never have to. Because again, they're smaller and weaker than us. You don't have to put your hands on them. You don't have to physically hit a woman to restrain her. But no one ever criticizes the woman in that situation. No one ever says, well, why did she throw a fucking wrench at his head? Why did she hit him with a frying pan? There's an old R&B singer, Al Green. His woman threw a pot of flaming hot grits, boiling grits on him. She did minimal time. This man has third degree burns all over his face and chest. She did minimal time. But what did he do to deserve it?
That's what you always hear that.
What did he do to get her that crazy? Exist? Be alive? What is he could have stole all her money. That's still not an excuse to give him third degree burns. And on the flip side, the Nas Khalees, let's not even go into physical violence. Let's go into just being toxic. The man had to put out actual receipts for the courts to believe that she was being abusive to get his payments down, to get his payments rectified, to get custody. He had to show how abusive she was being because the court naturally believed, oh, well, he cheated on her, so she deserves everything she gets. No, it's not how life works. You don't get to be a dick.
Also, I'm pretty sure he didn't.
No, he did.
Did he?
I would have.
Yeah, but I heard that she messed around on him.
I don't care. If I'm Nas, I'm fucking around.
No, I get that. I'm just saying that she also.
You don't get the extent of it. Let's be real. I'm gonna he should have been. Maybe he should have been up front. Maybe he should have had an agreement.
Khalees was lucky to be the only mother of his kids at the time.
I don't like to do the whole Kevin Samuels thing, but let's weigh one against another. I'm not even going to say let's do the Kevin Samuels. Let's go to the real Godfather. Let's go to Patrice. Nas is the lottery ticket, not Khalees.
Fact.
I can get another you. You can't get another me.
Name one Khalees album.
That's a trick question. That's not fair. That's like saying name the WNBA champion from 4 years ago.
But I was listening
this year.
But I listened to Illmatic and Stillmatic this week at the gym.
But that's my point. He's the lottery ticket, not her. He can get another Khalees. She can't get another Nas. That's what happens with most divorces. In most divorces, the man will move on, get remarried sooner, get into a loving relationship sooner, while the woman doesn't. Because ladies, this is going to sound misogynist again. It's Buckley's time. Ring the bell. We got to get a sound bite for Buckley's time. This is going to hurt, but again, it's only truth. Truth sometimes doesn't feel well. You're not that special. There is a lot more good women looking for relationships than there are men willing to accept your version of a relationship. It's just a fact. You think Prince Charming is out there? He ain't. You think your knight in shining armor is coming to rescue? He's not. You gotta, a relationship is work. You gotta make the best out of the situation. And if you are divorced with all this other baggage that you're bringing into the next situation, man ain't gonna saddle up for that. Again, you hold the keys to sex. We've said it before, but we hold the keys to relationships and marriage. So we get to determine who we end up with. You don't. That's why, again, when the divorces happen, 70% of the time, the man will get remarried or get into a relationship before the woman does. That's just look up the stats. I don't really have to go.
That's just because men are disgusting.
Whatever makes you feel better.
Thing and it's toxic.
Yeah, whatever makes you feel better. That's why I don't argue with it anymore. Whatever makes you feel better. You're right.
You can't.
You're right. And you know what? You being right gets you? Alone. It gets you alone and wishing that you had a man. Because again, this is going branching off. I guess we're on story time. We're branching off the subject because we covered toxic masculinity pretty well. Let's go into what we want out of the exchange. What does a man want from you? Sex. What do you want from a man? Love. Which one's harder to get? Just do the math in your head, ladies. I don't have to answer that question. So, Rob, before we wrap this up, did you forget your joke? Or you still got it?
Oh,
we should be good with YouTube.
It feels so irrelevant, but I was going to say Serena Williams can wash me any day.
Oh, it's true. It's true. She's a goddamn Amazon. She's a goddamn goddess. But
we're not that type of show.
You think I'm not? If she listens and she wants to, she ever gets tired of what's his face, I will gladly get on board with her program. But for Rob, this is Ace. Like, subscribe. We're going to wrap this one up. Again, hit those YouTube buttons, comments, do all that good stuff. We're going to talk to you when we talk to you. Peace, everybody.